Passing through the gates when we are taken to a higher realm. So no one wants to hear that toxic self. The bell of our ancestors where it's felt. Passing through the gates when we are taken to a higher realm. So no one wants to hear all that toxic self. When the bell of our ancestors where it's felt. Passing through the gates when we are taken to a higher realm. So no one wants to hear all that toxic self. When the bell of our ancestors where it's felt. Passing through the gates when we are taken to a higher realm. So no one wants to hear all that toxic self. When the bell of our
Bienvenido, mis hermanas, mis hermanos. Welcome, sisters and brothers. Welcome to a Sunday re-church, KRST. Right, we're back. Greetings. I just wanted quickly to get up on here and just, just had a Sunday day out, whatever. And then just to revisit schooling, doctrine, and also being gracious enough to recognize different people's holidays, different schools of thought. I've come from that whole Christian paradigm. So I lived that whole thing, Easter, going out there and going to the rides and stuff like that, amusement parks and stuff like that, and getting dressed up for Sunday and having the feast, But anyway, other than that, I know that everybody's having a wonderful experience, no matter where you are, no matter where you are in the world, no matter where you are in your life, you're going to find that moment of solitude. You're going to find that moment of happiness because we, again, have the ability to transcend or to go over these drama, all these antisocial, suppressive personalities. We have the ability to go fly over it, fly over the storm, fly over the drama, okay, and look down into the center, into the eye, the Pagwabat. You know what I'm saying? What time is it? That's 4:22. But I like to start out with Patak Yud for the simple reason that Patak Yud is our affirmation. It's just affirmation. You know what I'm saying? And that's very important. I'll bring it up. Give me 1 second. So the affirmation, you know what I'm saying? Pretty soon we're going to do a whole big bill on what is an affirmation, to affirm things, declare it and affirm it. In the Sabiic languages, pa, the, takyud is affirmation. That is. Hanuki jawef pa, ashuk impa bahot. Wokali, excuse me. Wokali ashukawun jawifniya. Anukai kwasaum impa bahot. Wopa bahot. Kawun kwasaum imniya. Anukai wahu ame pa bahot. Wupa paot kabun wahu amehniya. Nakuk kwadur naju ameh kwasaum impa paot. Wakhabub ameh mushkhasum. Nakuk kwadur kawan kalif pa fifth nakuk dayur jawif pa paut ameh wasah ameh dayarni kawung lake bakoy jawif pa paut anukai yabid baina fashni pa paut kawun anukai pa paut kudur nakuk kudur pa paul amul nukuk amur. And that's just the affirmation. That is the affirmation. It's a form, affirm all things. And we're saying, I am in the love, divine love of all the expanding, all expanding, and all divine love is in me. I am part of the all expanding, and the all expanding is part of me. I am one as the all expanding, and the all expanding is one as me. I can succeed as part of the all expanding and fail as an individual person. I can be all that I want in the all expanding as long as my want is to stay in the all expanding. I'm never by myself. The all expanding is, I am. The all expanding I can. The all expanding does, I do. So we affirm that. We declare that. We affirm it. Okay. Now, let's do the fallacy. Easter, Easter, Easter. Millions of Christians worldwide faithfully observe the so-called holy day Easter with Easter bunnies, Easter eggs, Easter bonnets, and etc. Now ask yourself these questions. Now, this is not to be derogatory or discrediting anything. This is to ask questions and to think about something as to affirm it and to truth is truth to set the record straight. What do any of the Easter bunnies, Easter eggs, Easter bonnet, and etc. What do any of these things have in relation to the story of the Messiah, the Messiah, Jesus, also known as the Messiah, Yeshua, Messiah, Isa? Can you see any logical connection between brightly covered eggs, cottontail rabbits, the new hats, the bonnets, and the account of the life and the so-called crucifixion and resurrection of the Messiah, Jesus? Are there any verses in your scriptures for drawing such ridiculous conclusion, or for that matter, where in the scriptures, be it in the Bible or the Quran, does it state that you should attend Easter service, Easter sunrise services, and eat hot cross buns, put ashes on your forehead, or observe Lent? Where is it? Easter, however, is considered to be one of the most important Christian holidays. It is supposed to be the high point in the religion year. We're going to go over that. Why then, I ask, are you unable to find modern Eastern traditions revealed and explained in the scriptures as the practice of the Messiah, Jesus, and his disciple? Questions. Yeah, these are questions. Now, the most high frequency that we know, will regarding religious custom, is summed up in this one command. Thus, you should not celebrate those pagan holidays. Make no mistakes. But we're gonna look into that. Okay, we're gonna look. The Most High, right? will allow you to defy and disobey him? Will he? He will allow you to follow the crowd and the traditions of men? But he also say there is a day of reckoning coming. Now, this was written a couple of years ago, and let me tell you something. The apocalypse is now. All of this is being revealed, and we're now starting to have a lot of battles of truth versus falsehood, right and wrong. Okay, right and wrong. Okay. Now, this is not to discredit my religious people, and this is their practice. This is what they want to do. But we gotta ask the questions. When you get to a point in your life where you start looking at these traditions and seeing how has these traditions, how has it impact our society? Is it just something made up to keep us pasteurized? We're gonna look at that Pasquale or pasteurized. You know what I'm saying? Our community so that we don't build on a truth, sawab, a true foundation. You gotta ask yourself. As you sow, you should reap, you know? So for many years, we follow foolishly traditions of men and thus become a victim, prisoners to the lies, deceptions, and falsehood of, in religious term, what they call the devil, of the antisocial practices. Because it's not allowing you to grow. It's not. It's keeping you passionate, not allowing you to grow. Now, the time has come for you to get to the root. The time been already. But for now, at this time, we got to get to the root of these lies. So we can loosen the chains that are binding your soul, that soul, that energy of your feelings and emotions that help you build habits to build your paradigm, to build better community, people around you. You know what I'm saying? It's time now to loosen the chains that are binding the soul from keeping you to develop those beneficial social habits and paradigms. So the time now is to receive the instructions that you may be able to see the light, panawur, of the truth, sawab, because you have been made a fool of. They're looking at you and they're selling these ridiculous hats. They're selling these bunnies. You go to any department store and they got their little setup. You know, they got the little display and setup. And you go out there and you buy these things. But it has nothing beneficial to feel us. But we're gonna speak about where all that come from, and we're gonna also speak about the beneficial part of it. Okay. So while you have been solemnly observing what you think is a feast commemorating the resurrection of the Messiah, Jesus, or the Messiah, Yeshua, you know that these antisocial people knows that the Messiah, Jesus, was never crucified? But we're going to talk about that another time. He was never crucified. He knows that there is no such thing as a resurrection. Yeah. Surprise. Ring the bell. He was never crucified, and there's no such thing as a resurrection. All made up, people. All made up. But he definitely knows that Easter, just like Christmas, the so-called birth of the Messiah, Jesus, is nothing but a false pagan holiday, a way for him to make his economics, and continue to perpetrate, postulate his antisocial ways. Because after all, he was the one who instituted them. These antisocial people instituted this. We got to look at it. We got to repair that. We're about to repair humanity. You know, yet it's hard for people to let go of these traditions and stuff, but there's a way that you could transform them into something beneficial, and we're going to speak about that. Yeah, There you are, accepting the so Luciferians and those doctrine lies without even questioning what you claim to believe is so strongly. Easter and Christmas, along with the other false holidays that have been instituted throughout the ages, are nothing but the tools of these antisocial personalities, uses to keep you off the path of your betterment, social betterment, of your path of connecting to the most high frequencies, those frequencies of benefit, those frequencies coming from the sun and coming from KRST. You know, in finding out the truth about the Messiah, Jesus, for lack of a better name, because it's Messiah, Isa, or Masach, Yeshua, one of the prophets. He was one of the prophets, one of the prophets of the Most High. And this term is Anu, the Most High, or the most high frequency there is in life. It's your deepest and most heartfelt goal. It's to find out this truth. Are you then going to reject the truth when you finally find it? Are you going to reject that? You're going to be those that reject it and want to continue on being the fuel for this antisocial social personalities that running governments or that running certain they in the government, they're in our school systems, they're in our communities. They're in our communities as antisocial people. They know. They don't want to see you grow and progress. They don't want to see that. They don't want to see that because because then they'll fear you. And they'll fear you when you start waking up to this truth. They're going to start fearing you because then you're no longer fuel for their antisocial businesses, for their businesses. So let's take a journey through this, this fallacy of Easter, right? So that you can see for yourself that Easter is nothing but a false holiday, a holy day, which in reality has nothing to do with the Messiah, Yeshua, Masih, Isa Messiah, or Messiah, Jesus, if you want to use that name. Do not let yourself become like those heathen in the desert who should not see the truth of the most highest frequencies, and yet inhabit the parched places in the wilderness, in a salt land that is not inhibited. Okay. Easter, like many other of these holidays that came from a civilization where they call the pagans, they're celebrated by Christians and non-Christians alike, Easter, right? It's found its origin in the Babylonian Empire, ruled by the time of Sargon, Nimrod. The word Babylon is derived from the Greek word Babel, which meaning confusion, chaos, vanity, emptiness, and nothingness. Babel. We'll go over something there. Babylon was the first major civilization founded by Nimrod and his followers. Today, New York City is what they call the capital of the new Babylonian Empire. These Babylonians, this empire, and the customs and the ways of Babylonians has been with us for 6,000 years. That came out of Sumer. Babylon is in Sumer, And then in Sumer, they connected with ancient Kemet, with the Greek. Greek came after the Babylonian Empire. When that fell, the Greek Empire, and it morphed over. And then in Kemet, and then in the Roman, and then from the Roman, the European Empire. There's certain families, certain what they call certain family of nobilities that came out of the Babylonian Empire, went into to Kemet, become the Ptolemies. In Kemet, had the connection with Babylon. And then in Greek, there were certain houses in Greek families. And then in Rome, in Roman Empire, certain families. And then they went into Vatican City. These were farmers. These was great men of great wealth and land and all that. They got together and started running for Senate and started controlling government, that civilization all the way. And those families, those houses spread into Europe and spread up throughout the world, really. But in Europe, especially in Europe, you know what I'm saying? So it been like 6,000, 10,000, 6,000 years they've been in the rule. But now this is the end of the civilization. Got to accept the facts. Everything is fallen. We say Babylon has fallen. Is this civilization is going through a transformation. It's no longer the ways of the old ways. Now is a renewed civilization coming in. You know. So Nimrod was the son of Cush. As I say, he was a Cushite that went into Sumer to teach, son of Ham, according to the, the Bible narrative, and the son of the apostle Noah, was regarded many by a master hunter. So that was Nimrod, right? He ruled Syria, Persia, and all the Tigris-Euphrates area. And when he became established on the throne of royalty, Nimrod governed his subject with justice and rectitude until the expiration of a considerable time. He was blessed with a prosperity and good fortune, as long as he was still following the ways of the ancient Sumerians, Sumer, or what they say the Anunnaki, the Elohim, those that sit in high places. Elohim, or the Anunnaki, those that sit in higher places. You know this to be true from, if you read in the biblical sense, if you want to get into the Bible, then you read Genesis 10:10, where it speaks of the fortress of Canaan, meaning fortress of Anu, who is, again, the most high, El, the only true El. It's where that beginning of El come from, Anu. You know what I'm saying? That's Sumerian doctrine. That's Sumerian, culture. And Sumer also from the Cushite, remember, went in there, became the Magari, from the Ma Federation, went in there, Kush, and became Kushites, and then went into India, became the Hindu Kush, went into Sumer, became Magari, and then this is where Nimrod comes out of. First, Nimrod governed his subject with justice, rectitude, until he was what? He met up with a very antisocial man by the name of Merlin the Magician. They call him Merlin the Magician. He was known as the Satan of that area. He was a very antisocial being. And he worked a lot of magic. It's called Merlin the Magician. The unequal champion in the art of seduction. So he inspired Nimrod with diabolical suggestion of haughtiness and tyranny. It was an antisociable person. And then Nimrod became a suppressive personality. It was then that Nimrod overstepped the dignity of a king and claimed himself to be a partner of Anu the Most High, and eventually Anu the Most High himself. So in Hebrew, the dialect of Shurik and Syriac, Arabic, Nimrod means we will rebel or let us rebel. Nimrod means that we will rebel or let us rebel. This is just what it means. From the Aramaic Hebrew word, marad. So the Ashuric, Syriac, Arabic, Nimrod is marad, the same root letters we found in marad. Nimrod was a complete opposition to the law. He was in complete opposition to the laws and the commandments that were set by Anu the Most High. And the system of his oppression was to control the Amorite, right? Mountain dwellers cursed with leprosy. so as to have them believe that Nimrod was a creator and be worshipped as such. Nimrod was so overbearing, and he said that he married, it is said that he married his own mother. The name was Semiramis. This is where you see in the custom building in New York City, in Battery Park, right next to Battery Park. You have the custom building. You see those 4 statues. One of the statues is you see that as my avatar, and on the side you see the Namus, the Kemetic, the Nile Valley Namus, and you see him rising, and you see slumped over is the queen. You know what I'm saying? Samaris, who birthed Nimrod. Now, through the generation, the idolatrous worship, Nimrod had became a false messiah and the son of Baal. Through traditions, the sun god. You know, in his false Babylonian system, the mother and child, Samaris and Nimrod, became chief objects of worship. The worship of mother and child spread over the world. Looking at it from this narrative, okay, the names varying in different countries and language. For example, in Egypt, it was known as Isis and Horus, the child. They started worshiping Isis and Horus. Even in Greece, China, Japan, and Tibet, there is a counterpart of the Madonna made up long before the birth of the Messiah Jesus. In China is the Shimu, the Holy Mother. Egypt, Isis, and Horus, the child. Ephesus is in Edina. Greece, Aphrodite. You get the thing, Aphrodite. In Israel, it was Ashtaroth. In Rome, Venus, and Jupiter was the child. Scandinavia, Disa. Ancient German, Hertha. The Etruscans, Nutria. The Druids was Virgo, Petitua. In India, Indrani. Asia, Sabelli and Sandicius. And Hindu believe the Trinity, which is the 3 gods, they are supreme over the demigods, such as Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. And Shiva, the god of destruction. So you have the Madonna and the sun, that it goes into many different countries. It was during the 4th and 5th century that the pagans of the Western Europe were accepting the newly popular Christianity by the hundreds and thousands. They did not hesitate to carry their own customs and traditions along with them. So along came the Trinity, along came Christmas, along came Easter, and then many other pagan practices that people today attribute to the Messiah Jesus. Nothing to do with the Messiah Jesus, but they attribute it to that. Nowadays, the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church is symbolic of Nimrod. Once they became Christians and started to celebrate the feast, which comes in the spring, they kept the old name of their spring goddess, and the feast became known as Easter, from word Easter and the German word Ostern, come from a common origin. Oster, Easter, Astara, oyster, which is the Norseman meant the season of the rising, growing sun, the season of the new birth. The word was used to designate the feast of a new life in spring. The same root is found in the name and the place where the sun rises. East, oist, Easter, oist, where the sun rises from the what? The east. It became Easter, oist. The word Easter then originally meant the celebration of the spring sun, which has its origin in the east and brought new life upon the earth. The symbolism was then transferred during the Christian era to the meaning of the Easter you all know today, which is supposed to represent the new life of the Messiah Jesus, or what is Christians call, or what Christians call the resurrection. You know? Yeah. This resurrection, we got to really look at it. To resurrect means to have died and come back to life in a spiritual sense from out of the grave. A resurgence, right? The raising will only take place on that day. The resurrection of the Messiah Jesus, the American his Heritage Dictionary defines resurrection as what? A rising from the dead, returning to life, the state of those who have returned to life, a returning to practice, a notice, a use, a rebirth, the rising again of Christ on the third day after the crucifixion, the rising again of the dead at the last day of judgment, which they call Yamu Kiyama in Arabic, the day of standing. According to Nuwapo, it's Yomun Shilbagum. That's in Nuwapi, which was the area of Napata area. Since the Messiah Jesus did not die of a death or crucifixion, there's no reason to believe he resurrected. But we're going to do that in another class. We're going to look at the crucifixion, the event that happened before the crucifixion, using biblical texts and also using logic to see if these pieces of the puzzles add up perfectly together. So, in terms of this narrative, in terms of these holidays, we got to really, really look at the core of it. Because again, this is a reset. This is a re-church KRST, a reset, you know? So we'll talk about that later on. We talk about the fact that Jesus lived to be a ripe old age of 120. Because even when you look at when he resurrected, and after that, what happens after that? Oh, he just went into the clouds. But then, so he didn't do no more work after that. It's just crazy. It's crazy. The logic is not. And then during that particular podcast, we're going to look at Tammuz, what I'm saying, and Ishtar and Damuzi, and we're going to take it there. So originally, Easter was called the Feast of Feasts. Feasts. The Feast of Feasts. Sunday Pasch. By many nations in different tongues, such as Greek, Romanians, Pascha, Italian, Pasqua, Spaniards and Portuguese, Pascual, French, Pascual, Norwegian, Paskir, in Danish, Paaske, and the Gauls were like the French, Cask. The festival which you read about in the so-called scriptures during the time of the Messiah Jesus, which quite a different festival from the one that is now observed. Those festivals that you read about in the scriptures are different than what is being observed today. What's being observed today in the Roman and Protestant churches. And at this time, it was not known by any such name as Easter. It was called Pascha, or the Passover. That festival originally agreed with the Israelite Passover and was not idolatrous. Idolatrous. Idols. I'm losing a little bit of my English, y'all. So, the Passover. There's no command or example in the scriptures to justify the celebration of Easter. There's none. Although I'm sure that many of you will point out Acts 12:4, where a translator had purposely removed the word Passover and replaced it with Easter. You have to go into the blue letter, and you got to go into the actual Hebrew or the Greek. The use of the word Easter is then, in this quote, is a mistranslation according to the so-called biblical authorities. There are approximately 50,000 errors in the King James Version of the Bible. 50,000 errors. There are also state that today most of these errors have been corrected by modern translator who took it upon themselves to add things also. Now, according to studies done by these so-called authorities, there are even some passages that were not included in the original Greek or Latin translation of the New Testament. One point in question was whether or not the Messiah Jesus actually told his accusers of the harlot, he that is without sin among you, let him cast a stone at her. Give me 1 second. My apologies. Let me acknowledge some people. Devontae, what's going on? Yes, I have a blessed day, a blessed day, a blessed day. Hey, yep, yep. Blessed day, blessed day. Let me see. Yeah. So please don't get this twisted. I'm not that, you know, I'm gracious, man. I acknowledge people wanna celebrate, but people just they just do things because out of traditions and stuff like that. They want to celebrate, they can celebrate on and on and on. But we have to look at something. We got to see how has this impacted our economics, our habitat and environment. And a lot of our youth now are running away from these practices because they gotten bored and they just like they don't because of this information that's coming into they're growing and they have access to so much information. They're like, hey, questioning these things. Then when they ask questions to parents and they ask questions about these things, and we push them to the side, or we, you know what I'm saying, and we think that's not right. But they're on a they're on a quest to do something, they're on a quest to find something out. Like I said, I know what I know, but I always try to find out what I don't know. And that's the quest. I ask questions, that's a human thing, you know what I'm saying, on a quest, you know. So when you read into the scriptures, you find out that there are many, many, many contradictions when you go read in the biblical sense. And I'm just talking about that. But you can extract nature science from it. Don't get it twisted, because remember, in order to have all that confusion and all that disorder, there must have been some type of order. And that's taking those pieces and putting it, those pieces, fitting it perfectly together in this puzzle to create this, to establish a truth. A real, you want to establish a foundation, a real truth. You know what I'm saying? We want to, again, educate our children. Don't leave it up to the teachers and administration to educate your children, especially on culture. No, 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 no. We don't do that. Especially on cultures. That's something that we don't do, is that you have to take the responsibility of teaching your children your culture. So they can learn certain different, and that way create that paradigm, their economics, their habitat, and their environment, and learning how to sustain themselves with that. You know? So many Christians, they base their teachings around the stories of the acts, and peep it. when you study playwriting, what do? You got chapters, and you got what? Acts. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Something to think about. Thinking that it was just a divinely, they think that it was a divinely inspired book, but in reality, this book was based on hearsay, and had what they call hadith, stories, tales, right? Tales, a word of wisdom, stories. And they say that they were historians. Like Josephus wasn't historic because he told his story. He tells stories. And they tell the story. They keep telling these story, right? And they put it out there. People start reading the story. It spreads around. It becomes their reality. But it's based on falsehood. The pieces, they're many missing pieces. So Luke, a Greek physician and a disciple of Paul, according to scriptures, a self-appointed apostle, was in no way related to any of the 12 disciples. You know that? These hadiths were ascribed to Luke, but both Luke and Paul really wrote it according to the scriptures. Since Paul closely oversaw the writing of the stories of the Acts, he was really the author, right? He tells you that. When Luke referred to we in his book, it proves he was talking about Paul and himself. We. The story of Acts is supposed to provide the life story of Paul, who was the 13th self-appointed apostle. A lot of Christian base their whole narratives on this. So many Christians, they confuse why I say the book of the New Testament are tampered with and still use them. I must stress again that I don't disregard all of the hadith. We don't disregard all of those hadith. We don't. There are some good in them and can be used if they can be confirmed by the scriptures itself and the test, the touchstone of positivity. Is this going to be beneficial for us in the long run? Can we build on this? Can we build on it? Because I'm telling you, this whole false Christian narratives and that's being torn apart. No legs to stand on anymore. You can see it happening around you. I'm not doing it. I don't postulate that. I don't create that. It's just what's happening. You open your eyes to see what's happening around you. So you can't mix up the words, man. That whole Paul and they're mixing up the words there. You know what I'm saying? Now Luke never claimed to be a disciple, but relates event before his appearance on the scene as he heard them from Paul. And now remember, we want to talk about where all of these stories come from and these characters like Paul and Luke and Mark and did they really exist? Is there any really, really historical account on that? Right now they're having those discussions. Because remember, information now is available. There are certain books and texts that couldn't been read by the average man that now can read online. He can research more and more and more. He's gotten out from the cart, believing now he's gotten to see, is their wheel loose? Is their nug loose? What's going on? The investigation, he invested his time to investigating. And once you investigate, it says, now let me put these pieces together and see how it works so that I can create something that's beneficial for me and my family and my community and humanity. You know what I'm saying? So you see, there's a lot. There's so much information. I'm reading from a book called The Fallacy of Easter, right? And well, just to keep it on this here now, we can say that that Christianity or Christian was a slang term given to them of the people of Antioch, you know, which is spoken in the Bible in Acts 11:26. Antioch, Antioch, you know, Antioch. And why? Because Antioch was founded by Seleucus Nicator, who was named after his father, Antiochus. The name Christian was first used in the year 321 AD. Therefore, it cannot have been used during Jesus' time. Nor was his disciples or followers during his time called Christians, being Jesus, son of Mary, and Gabriel, born in 7 AD. For over 300 years, followers were called Nazarene, as found in the Holy Quran, Nazir, right? Thus, Christianity from 1997 AD onto 321 AD. That was known as Nazarenes, Nasar, helpers, Nasar, Ansaru, Nasaru, okay? Natharu. You see? It's all relatable. That's the true school of thought, right? Not even 2,000 years ago, as most Christians claim, making it over 76 years older than Islam. Only 76 years older than Islam. Really? So, you know, the only book with validity of the New Testament are the book of Revelation and the book of the prophet John. That's it. If you really look at it, if you're into this biblical text and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? But remember, there's so much to impact. There's so much. This is just a section of it. Still, many people are still caught up in this. Caught up. And like I said, we're in the time right now of the war between bad information and good information. You know, the war between truth and lies, right and wrong. We're fighting this war of principalities, principles, and morals and ethics. That's a war that's being fought. I didn't start the war. You know what I'm saying? It's happening all around us. It's really happening around us. So the holiday was nothing to. So the holiday has nothing to do with the Messiah Jesus and the first Christians. Should I say the first Nazarenes? They didn't celebrate it. In reality, it's merely the translated English spelling of the name of the ancient Assyrian and Babylonian goddess Ishtar. 1 second. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm back. I gotta end this stream because I'm just being disrupted here. But anyway, this has nothing to do with the Messiah Jesus, this Easter and all that. Here we go again. Oh my God. I'm sorry. No one's gonna stop this information from getting out. I'm sorry. It's the way it is. It's the way it is. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, these are holidays. It had nothing to do with Jesus, man. It had nothing to do when you read for the biblical text now. And I'm not saying that Jesus existed. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying when you look at their text, they're caught up in this chaos amongst their own text, their own school of thought. I mean, you got so many different, Jehovah Witnesses don't rock with the Seventh-day Adventists or the Baptists. There's so much confusion even amongst Islamic, the Abrahamic faith and stuff like that. They gotten so disconnected from the source of it all. That's what's going on. So, actually so Easter is mainly a translated English spelling of the name of the ancient Assyrian and Babylonian goddess Ishtar. The Phoenician name of this goddess was Astarte, 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 who was a wife of Baal, the sun god, who worship is denounced by Anu the Most High in the scriptures, in the holy tablets, as the most abominable of all pagan idolatry. Yeah. Astarte, the Semitic goddess of love and fertility, is the same as the Babylonian Ishtar, identified by the Greeks with Aphrodite, and as the moon goddess with Selene and Artemis. And you can find this in El Torah, Shikor, and you can find this in the Torah, the Old Testament, as Ashtaroth. Baal was a supreme male divinity. He was known as a universal god of fertility, and his title was Prince or Lord or the earth, the Lord of the rain and dew. So you see, the ancient gods, these ancient civilizations had these ancient gods of the pagans. They had many different names. Again, that's when all that confusion started coming in, all these different names. So while the goddess was called Astarte by the Phoenician in ancient Kemet, she is known as Aset in ancient Kemet. And remember, Kemet, that's why I separate Nile Valley from Kemet. Because Kemet was, all of that was starting Kemet, because Kemet was where a lot of the Greeks, were further up to the Delta, where access to the Levant, the canal, the Suez Canal wasn't there, so it was easy access, walking over the Hyksos, these different tribes that went into Kemet. And there were Greeks, a lot of Greeks went into, and they call it Ham or Kemet, a Ham, Hamet. Hamam means black. Even in Sabig, it means black. So these practices went into the Nile Valley also. Because you had Tamari and all these practices, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't as much as you saw in Kemet. And to the Greek, it was known as Isis. Isis is to the Greek. They just attributed the name Isis to Egypt when the word itself is a Greek word, So they attach this Greek. Because remember, the Greeks were very invested. Because Alexander the Great, the Greeks were very, very, they even formed the Ptolemy house in ancient Kemet and ruled in ancient Kemet. But they didn't rule all of the Nile Valley, but in that area in Kemet. So you see, it appears in the Assyrian monument found in excavation in Nineveh as Ishtar. Astarte is the same as Ishtar, and they're both pronounced Ishtar. Ishtar. Ishtare, Easter, according to the Webster Library of Universal Knowledge. Easter is defined as Easter from Anglo-Saxon Istre, Eostre, Old High German Ostara, or the goddess of light and spring, in honor of whom a festival was celebrated in April. Whence the month was also called Easter Month, connected with Easter. You know, April, the Syriac Arabic word for April is Abril, 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 or April. Abril is the month when Christmas usually celebrate Easter. When Christians usually celebrate Easter. It was the second month in early Christian Roman calendar, but became the fourth month when Julius Caesar established the Julian calendar in 46 BC. That's historical account now. There's historical account. So for those historians out there, look into it. So these are stories. There's just documentation. Look into that to see if you want to get into that narrative, because to me, it's all doctrine is a waste of time. Can't build on it. That's what I'm saying. We as Sabaeans, we do have a celebration, but it's the feast of feasts, and celebration, and the core of it is again to celebrate the new birth, of nature, the springing of things in nature, the springing of things, and also your crops. You're happy now. You're a farmer. Your crops are starting to spring up, so as you can have your harvest. So this is to celebrate that, so that you have a good crop. And even I was walking out there and I saw, during this time, these ducks out there I should have filmed it. These ducks were laying their eggs, and now they'll let eggs hatch, and you see these little ducklings following the mother and the father. You see the little ducklings walking. During this time, you see a lot of little ducklings walking. Well, when I go outside, maybe in a couple of, when I'm outside and I can catch them, I'm gonna show you that this is the time when a lot of this take place. You can see it. You know what I'm saying? In nature, it's a celebrated. And so we as Sabaeans, Sabah, we just honor that, have revere for that. We're not, natural nature is gonna do what it's do, but that's because people want to have reasons to come together. You know what I'm saying? We're social beings. We like to be together and grow, and that's where you start connecting on these feasts. Start connecting. You know what I'm saying? And just some beneficial things that can come out of it again. But to be caught up in the whole narrative about it, the doctrine and dogma, to be caught up in it, man, it's not. You can't. If you can't build on it, what can you do? You can teach your children some of the the dynamic of existence, that how nature works and how to take care of it, and have that reverence for natural nature. That you could build on that, because you're building characters. And when you build characters like that through these principles, through those morals and ethics, when you build their character and their personality like that, then you build social beings for the future. You know what I'm saying? So, previously stated, when the pagans were converted to Christianity, they retained some of the custom of their former life and Christianized the way. That is what took place with the pagan Anglo-Saxon, who used to celebrate a festival of their goddess of spring by the name of Estre, Eostre, Eostre. That's the Anglo-Saxons' goddess, Oestre. Anglo-Saxons were the Germanic tribe, Angles and Saxons and their Jutes, who inhabited and ruled England during the 5th and 6th century. They are responsible for leaving their mark on the English language in its grammar and in thousands of words, including some of the English words used today. Anglo-Saxon. That's to say English. You learned that in elementary. You learned that in high school, the Anglo-Saxons. Anglo was a name given to the English-speaking Caucasians. The word England was taken from the Old English word ingla, or land, which means land of the Angles. People of the Angle, land of the Angles, people of the Angles. We'll have to do a special class on that. You know, many biblical authorities have stated that the stories of the Acts was not included in some of the old biblical manuscripts such as the Sinaitic manuscript, the Vatican MS number 1209, and the Sinaitic Syriac codes. These documents date back to the 4th century. Some so-called scholars then changed their mind 2 centuries later and said that these missing quotes turn up in the Codex Bezae, the Latin Vulgate, and the Jerusalem Syriac version called the Codex Bezae. The English translation of the Bible are translated from the Greek. The Greek is translated from the Hebrew, and the Hebrew from the Aramaic, and the Aramaic from the Syriac Arabic called Syriac, Ancient Arabic, Ancient Syriac, Ancient Arabic, and Sabaean. In order for you to see that the original word used in the Hadith was Passover and not Easter, here's an Hadith of the book of Acts in the original language of the Arabic, the Ashuric Syriac Arabic. And when he seized him, a Muslim was put in the prison, gave he alone, and delivered to 4 of the 4th of the military to guard him, intending after the Passover, the dawn, the present him before the trial. That's in Acts 12:4. So you see, along with Jesus, the Messiah was telling his disciples, along the Messiah, Jesus was telling his disciples that he was to be betrayed during the Passover. They were having the Passover, and his betrayal was to be one of the 12 disciples to walk beside him, who was Judas. So he knew ahead of time. You know, when you look at Acts 4 in different languages, you see the word Pasquale also in there. You see the word Passover in there. So why Christian preachers and teachers who are sanctioned by the Pope saying that they're Christians, preachers, and teachers who are sanctioned by the Pope saying that the knowledge of the betrayal was only discovered in the week that they call the Passion Week, and more particular as the table of the Last Supper? What? Really? Could it be that they also had in them a little Judas, and they are betraying you by not telling you the truth of what really happened? What has happened, whether you realize it or not, is that all Western nations have been deceived into dropping the festival, the original festival that I knew the Most High ordained, the Passover. You have substituted for a pagan festival of Easter in commemoration of the anti-sociable people we call the devil, the mediator of Baal, the sun god, named after the mythical Ishtar and Árashtat. His wife is actually none other than the ancient Semiramis, who passed herself off as the wife of the sun god. The idolatrous queen of heaven today. The Passover has become one of the major pilgrim festivals of the so-called pale Jews, you know, the Jebusites of Canaan, who refer to it as their festival of freedom, who refer to it as as the pale cursed seed of the Jebusites of the tribe of Canaan, who today call themselves Jews. They're not the original Israelite from the house of Israel, you know. They're not the pure seed of the prophet Abraham or Ibrahim, or those Ebony people that travel, that the Canaanites call them. The Canaanites and these Ebony people, they were melanated people coming from the Chaldean Ur. They're Canaanite mountain, but the Jews today, they're Canaanites, mountain dwellers, not the Canaanites of Moabites. They're not Moabites. It was the Moabites that termed it in Hebrew, but who was part of the Canaanites, a section of the Canaanites. But then there was a section of Canaanites that were mountain dwellers who were civilized when the Ibri people, one of the Ibri, Zozers, when he went up into the Caucasus Mountain to cure them of their leprosy. But we're going to go into now the date of Easter, which has really we already learned is a mistranslation of the word Passover, right? And Easter, east, I started or east, the sunrise that rises in the east, right? And then the Passover from passing from winter into spring. So passing from winter to summer. So this Passover is right there in spring. It's celebrated by Christians on the first Sunday after the full moon, which happens upon after the spring equinox. If you have the first, you have the spring equinox, and after that, you see the full moon, right? The first after the full moon, the first Sunday after that full moon is the practice of the Passover, what they call Easter. The full moon occurs on a Sunday. Easter Day is a Sunday after. Check it out. This is the way they do their thing. Easter, therefore, can fall between March 22nd or April the 25th inclusively. Originally, the feast of the Passover was celebrated as was commanded by Yahweh on the 14th of the month of Nisan. That is to say, on the 14th day of the first month of Nisan in the Hebrew calendar. Nisan is the 7th month of the civil year and the first of the religious year. So you got to look at calendar. There's so much information here to unpack, but I don't want to stay here too long, yo. I've been here already an hour. But the point here, let me see. There's so much things that we could have. They confuse us. I just want to say this real quick. They confuse us with many different sayings. You know what I'm saying? So you can see how politically organized the church in Rome grew to a great size and power by adopting popular pagan practices, and how she gradually stomped out the true teachings, the doctrine, and the practices that the Nazarenes had. Nazarenes had. This, however, is no surprise to us when we study here when we study this before in the Holy Tabernacle Ministries, or you study this in the Church of KRST, right? Or you study this in the Nile Valley, because we're well aware of what these antisocial beings are doing. We're well aware of how they get down. Just as in Rome during the era time of the Council of Nicaea, you today have a council. Today there's a council, and it is a council which makes decisions. Today the so-called council, they get together and decide that where they want their holiday to fall on a Monday, because it was be more convenient for them financially, academically, or whatever ridiculous reason they may want to find. There's a council that decides this. Thus the holidays are moved and no one can say anything about it. So these antisociable people that come from this civilization, what they call them the Luciferians, have pushed their holidays up, and they even had the power to change the weather. But we're gonna go into that. But this is all part of their plan to keep us confused. The days of the week, the month of the year, even the holidays have been changed to suit their fanoi, and also to confuse you, social people, Nubians, you African, you people who want to do the right thing, to confuse you when the end will be here. Here comes Peter Cottontail hopping down the bunny trail, hippity hoppity Esau on his way, the cottontail of the red flatlands of the western U.S. desert and the Mexican plains. When threatened, cottontail will often free, thus allowing them to hold a motionless posture for 5 minutes or more. The cottontail. So we're not going to go into the Easter bunnies. I'm not going to do that right now. But good read. You got the Easter egg, and well, all I want to say is this. So, we got to be very, very, careful in these days and times, man. And we got to really seek out the truth. Sawab. We got to really seek out the truth so we can reset things. Everything has been reset. You try to hold on to that old ways, man, you're going to find yourself and your family and your legacy extinct and in trouble. conquered and enslaved all over again. You know what I'm saying? All over again. So with this, I'm just saying, be gracious though. You know what I'm saying? Don't bash nobody in the head. Excuse me a second. Be graceful. Don't bash nobody in the head or anything like that with this, with knowledge and stuff like that, what you find out. You know what I'm saying? Be gracious. You know what I'm saying? Be a social being at the same time when it's at the proper time, when you can communicate at the proper time, and people ask you, they see you doing things that are not the way they were doing it. Why do you do that? Why you dress like that? Why do you do that? Why do you say these Sabiic words as you speak? Natuk, right? Why you say these mispatia, madat, as nakut? Why you do that? What does that mean? You know what I'm saying? We had a great time at the Pará 17 year in North Carolina. Like I said, I'm getting out more to do work. And it was great with the drums. And as we playing and chanting, I was chanting, I know that. Um, as we doing that, it brought it, people gravitate to that because they hear the drums. And then when they hear the drums, they seen the glyphs, the books. Some of them recognize it automatically. We had another guy in a bookstore that has some of those books in his store. You know what I'm saying? So it's a part to connect with them also. And another brother that came in there, he says, "Man, I saw you on Sonetta. You see what's going on, whatever." Sat down. We had a nice build. A nice build. You know what I'm saying? It was a beginning. It's a again marking the beginning of us also going out there with our culture, sharing it, so to bring people to say, "Hey, listen, let's build together. Let's build a community." You can, you can, if you want to be, as long as the common denominator is the truth. At the core of it has to be the truth and the foundation. If you want to branch out from that and you want to find yourself in the outer band, by all means. But remember, those things changes. Those things changes. But let's get to the center. Let's get to the core of things, because that doesn't change. Because that's the core. That's the origin. Gotta know the origin of things, and then that can and build your foundation again. Because whatever you have now started from there has just gotten disconnected from it. But connect back to the source. Don't get so caught up in those rituals and the rites. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna lose anything. If anything, repair your church. Repair that. You got every right to do that. Repair that. But understand that you can't do it without the truth. You can't do it without the truth. And when you go into the truth, man, you're gonna find out a lot of things. It's gonna lead you. It's gonna lead you to Wu Sabat, and the Wapo is the philosophy, but the Wu Sabat, that culture. You know what I'm saying? And further than that, we might even go further than Wu Sabat. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, you're connecting back to the source of it all. And the source of the planet right now is that sun. And a lot of times, there are always stories about these learned men and these prophets traveling from the east to the west, like the Ibri or the Ibrahims, Abraham traveling from the east to the west, because they follow the sun. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And so when they look to the east, like the eastern stars, and they look to the east, like the worshipful master sits on the east, when they look at that, understand that the destination is to the west. That's the destination. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I mean, I just got out here just to build a little bit at a little time left, but it got a little chaotic, but you see it calmed down now. So, all in blessings to you all. Devontae Harris, thank you very much for tuning in. And for those of you in the future who is going to be tuning in, understand one thing. This is not to discredit, be derogatory or anything. This is getting to the truth. You know what I'm saying? People these days, they don't like, they fear the truth. Okay. But then you got to ask yourself, if you're not antisocial, you're able to look at yourself and says, "Then, am I stopping other people from growing? connecting to the source. Because if I'm stopping people from growing, connecting to the source, then I'm antisocial. Then that's a hidden fear. Then you have a hidden fear that you have to deal with. You got to do your shadow work and you got to deal with that. But don't bring it here. You know what I'm saying? And I have to look within myself. And if I could see that I have some of that personality and I correct it, then I'm not antisocial. I'm a social person because I want to grow. You know what I'm saying? And the truth, it's the truth. You know? Pas sawab, kawum pas sawab. The truth is the truth. Unchangeable. You know what I'm saying? It only it can be fractalized, but then it takes a the right mind. It takes the right type of mentality, the reasoning power, intelligence to put those pieces together. Put those pieces together. You know what I'm saying? And once you start doing that and you get to reason and you get to see, then that's that's liberation knowledge. Noble liberation knowledge. You cannot be conquered or enslaved anymore by these principles in your mind. You cannot be conquered unless you decide to become a complicit and deny the truth. Only a fool would duck when the truth is thrown at them, you know? Those are sayings of Panabal Yanan. He has some great sayings. A fool would duck when the truth is thrown at them. You know what I'm saying? And also, what people in these days they fear is the truth. And those are antisocial personalities, man. You know, they don't want to see you grow. They don't want to see you better yourself because they feel they're in danger. Their position is danger. They're in danger because if you try to wait, learn something or better yourself, they're in danger. I don't understand that. That's kind of a little hard to stand to reason. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, wow, that's weird, weird. But again, I guess there are people like that, and there's people that have became like that, and those are the ones you want to be able to connect with and feed them the right medicine, feed them the right words and medicine that they need, inspire them. That's spirituality, to inspire them. You know what I'm saying? So when you inspire them, right, with these ideas and concept, and they're able to balance it out with certain feelings and emotions and create this habitual habits that create their paradigm, and you create a very balanced and great paradigm. And that's at the heart of it all. That's the heart, the barrier of it all. You know what I'm saying? That's powerful, bro. Powerful, powerful, powerful. We're definitely doing it. Not that we can do it, or we're doing it. We're doing it. We have natural nature. This natural nature is taking its course. You can't stop it. Don't try to stop it, because then you go against it and then it's gonna turn back on you. That's fate. That's not faith. That's fate. It's not trusting in things, it's having the truth. Don't trust. Get the truth. Know the truth. Set you free. Don't have faith. Know fate. Know the consequences thing. Cause and effect. Know what causes these certain effects. And then work from there. You know what I'm saying? That's a huge that's a primordial being way of growing in life, man. And I say that because I'm getting away from human, but anyway, we're still human. You know what I'm saying? But primordial being, primordial being concept. Now Valley, Niger Congo, Green Sahara, that was from a civilization which was in the top half of civilization before it started to descend down to religion, to pantheism, and then to religion. Now we're learning more about pantheism, and after the pantheism, we learn more of the truth of Nupu, nature knowledge, nature knowledge. You know. Anyway, that's it. All in blessings. May you have a happy Passover. If you're gonna have a feast, have a happy festival, a feast, and a Passover, and recognize how it's affecting your environment around you. in the trees and the animals. Check it out. Check it out. This is the time of rebirth. Okay? And celebrate that. Celebrate that. All right? The rebirth also of our doc- doctrine and dogma, but our connecting to the source.